Welcome to the To Health With That podcast, where we break up big health topics into small bites. I'm your host, naturopathic Dr. Amy Newsel, and this season isn't actually a season because I'm busy working on a book. So, what we will have is a few episodes when there's something important to talk about related to MTHFR that hasn't come up in other seasons. I can't wait to get started. This week, let's talk about our remaining two methylation archetype types. These are our methylation personality types, the artist and the activist. Now, methylation imbalance, as we've mentioned, shows itself in these four kind of predictable personality types that can give you a starting place in terms of where to start with supplements and even prescription medications. Knowing your type is kind of like knowing a shortcut on the methylation journey. But we always start with our basic steps that are outlined in the methylation and MTHFR roadmap, which you can download for free at tohealthwiththat.com, tohealthwiththat.com, in the free tools section of the website. So if you have not taken the methylation personality type quiz or methylation archetype quiz, I recommend you do that before you really deep dive into these, but feel free to listen anyway. What the heck? If you want to take the quiz, again, you can find that on the website, on the front page, but also in the free tools. The artist and the activist, just like the achiever and the athlete that we talked about last time, are very closely linked, potentially even more closely than athlete and achiever. So these are very similar types with a tremendous amount of overlap in their personality and typical response to supplements. They care deeply about what they care about, but unlike the achiever and the athlete, they don't really get too bothered about what society in general cares about. So they're not perfectionists broadly. They're very, very focused on the things that matter to them. These types are more likely to march to the beat of their own drum rather than try to achieve standards that don't matter to them. They tend to be emotionally very sensitive and empathic, channeling those sensitivities into their art or their cause. It would be easy to assume that all artists work in art-related fields. It's not the case at all. Likewise, all activists don't work in activism, right? The hallmark here with artist types is getting lost in your work for hours or days and forgetting to come up for air, right? In the way you think of the classic artist caricature, right? That person who just gets lost and they don't even remember that they're painting or sculpting or doing whatever they're doing. They are just in it, in the flow. So whatever your work is, you can get into that flow. And if that's you, you may be an artist. So no matter what type of work these people do, they do tend to bring a creative approach. And so they tend to hear things like, this is such a novel way to approach this problem, or I haven't seen anybody approach this way, but it's really clever. Activists tend to approach their cause in the same way, throwing their whole selves into it. And again, activists may work on their cause outside of their profession and not in it, or their cause may be something that isn't normally thought of as a humanitarian cause, but is something that matters deeply to them. Like I would say, educating people about methylation is kind of my cause, right? So it's not really a cause, all right? I'm not working for a charity, but it is the thing that I think has the potential to help the most people. So the work isn't necessarily what's important. It's that personality that drives the work that separates you between artist or activist or something else. Both these types, artist and activist, tend to have lower levels of histamine, but more likelihood of sensitivity to chemicals or foods. So this means both types could be affected by food or chemical sensitivities, rashes, like especially if you use, a certain detergent or a lotion, or sensitivity to chemical smells like perfumes, gasoline, that sort of thing. Also, these folks typically tolerate and even thrive on leftovers and fermented foods, which are higher in histamine, which is probably a good thing because a lot of the folks in this category forget to eat for days because they're doing their thing, right? So leftovers helpful here. And remember about histamine. Histamine breakdown is really complex. So there's a lot of genes that contribute that are outside of the methylation pathway. So the histamine piece is not as precise as the rest of the personality, but it still goes hand in hand. Now, there isn't as much of a difference between these two types as there is between the athlete and the achiever. You may test your personality and end up with either the artist or activist and kind of feel that you resonate more closely with the other type. Choose the one you resonate with. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference here in terms of supplement or pharmaceutical recommendations, and that's the most important piece. Both of these types do feel suffering very acutely of humans, animals, the planet, but activists are usually more motivated to solve the problem in whatever way they think is most useful, while artists are more motivated to express the problem and bring it to light. That's a broad generalization, but go with the personality type that describes you the best. Both artists and activists have similarities in terms of how they respond to supplements and drugs. Both of these groups tend to react very well to good sources of folate, not folic acid, good sources of folate, including folinic acid and L5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Methylfolate is one of the best starting places for this group, but start at a low dose always. In terms of pharmaceuticals, benzodiazepines tend to do better for this group than something like an SSRI. This group does not react as well to things that boost serotonin. So benzodiazepine, lithium prescription, or lithium orotate tend to work well for this group. And again, the folates, right? High folate foods, folinic acid, and methylfolate. B12, B3, B6, zinc, antioxidants, manganese, magnesium, choline, DMAE, and omega-3 fatty acids are all very, very useful and well tolerated in this group. The things that are not, it's kind of the flip side of the achiever and the athlete, right? So don't tend to tolerate SSRI antidepressants very well. Also, don't tend to feel great with antihistamines. Usually it's just not worth the effort, or, you get all the side effects like the drowsiness and the sleepiness, but it doesn't really solve the problem. Tend not to tolerate estrogens as well, birth control pills or artificial hormones especially, and tend not to tolerate methyl donors as well. So SAMe, DMG, TMG. Also, natural substances that affect serotonin like St. John's wort, tryptophan, phenylalanine, not so good. Now, of course, there are exceptions to these rules. And if you have something like, say, OCD tendencies where inositol might be highly indicated, then it's still worth trying. Just bear it in mind and go cautiously. Finding your best path forward should always start with the basic steps to balance methylation. Follow the roadmap. That includes eliminating folic acid and introducing high folate, natural folate foods. If you haven't already, you can download the MTHFR and methylation roadmap to start those steps at tohealthwiththat.com. Also, if something is on your typically bad reaction list but is suggested by your doctor, it's a good idea to consider it. Things are worth a try if they're really well indicated. The best path forward with supplements will still involve trial and error. Every human is unique, and this is a very broad generalization. We're each very specific people. We have thousands of gene SNPs, so, you can't predict everything. But this list does give you a useful starting point and can save you some time. Remember, all of this depends not only on your MTHFR gene, but on all of your other genes, nutritional deficiencies, nutritional excesses. So be patient with yourself when you're finding the best nutrients for your body. And again, when we're balancing methylation, this is a big foundational piece. So remember, simple, simple, simple. The first basic steps. Start low, go slow, change one thing at a time. By start low, I mean start with the lowest dose of a supplement you can find, right? Make it easy for your body. Go slow, meaning change happens slowly. So you don't jump from taking 400 micrograms to a milligram, right? You change things slowly. And make only one supplement or diet change at a time so that if you have symptoms, you can figure out and put it together what is causing those symptoms. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And hey, take a minute to check out the new website. It looks pretty. I love it. tohealthwiththat.com. Thank you.